Hey, greetings everyone, and a happy San Jacinto Day here in Texas. It was 184 years ago that in 18 minutes, Sam Houston, the Texians, and some volunteers from some other states secured the independence of the Lone Star State, the people that we call home Texas. This is Lieutenant Colonel Allen West. I'm a candidate for the chairman of the Republican Party of Texas, and I want to welcome you to another episode of what we call Chairman Chats. I think we got a great program tonight, and it does tie back to our history because we're going to start out with Lee Spencer White. And Lee Spencer White is the part of the Friends of the Texas Historical Commission, and she is also a descendant, a direct descendant of one of the defenders of the Alamo, and she's part of the Alamo Defenders Association. And then also we have State Senate District candidate for State Senate District 29, Bethany Hatch. And that state senate district is centered out in El Paso and extends down along the Rio Grande Valley, along the border, down through Marfa and into the Big Bend. So I think we got a great show for you all tonight with Lee Spencer White and Bethany Hatch. Hey, greetings everyone. As promised, we have an incredible woman here today. And since it is San Jacinto Day, April the 21st here in 2020, 184 years ago, in 18 minutes, Texas secured its independence. And so we're going to have a chat with Lee Spencer White. And Lee White is a seventh generation Texan whose fourth great grandfather, Gordon C. Jennings, died in defense of the Alamo. Over the past 20 years, Ms. White has founded the Alamo Defender Descendants Association and actively researched history across several states and Mexico. She is an active preservationist who was nominated for the governor's 2006 Texas Women's Hall of Fame Award. Lee has been interviewed hundreds of times by national newspapers such as the Chicago Tribune, Dallas Morning News about her historical research and preservation efforts. Additionally, she serves on the board of the former Texas Rangers Association. She is also the co-author of Last Soul Standing, a historical narrative about Joe, a slave owned by famed Alamo commander William Barrett Travis. Lee is also a favorite speaker among Texas historical organizations and has worked as a historical consultant for the History Channel, Derg Films, and the BBC. She resides in Fredericksburg with her husband Larry, and they have one daughter by the name of Sam. Lee White, thank you so much for joining us here this evening.
A pleasure.
Hey, you know, last year it came to my attention some issues that were going on down in San Antonio with the cenotaph. And a lot of folks maybe don't understand what the cenotaph is. So let me give them a little background. Cenotaph comes from the Greek word kinos taphos, meaning empty tomb. It is a monument to a person or a group of persons who are buried elsewhere. Now, when we think about what happened to the Alamo defenders, you know, they were burned to death after they were massacred by Santa Anna. The cenotaph that is there at the Alamo was dedicated on 11 November of 1940, and of course it was commissioned at the 100th year anniversary of the Battle of the Alamo. So when we look at what is happening down in San Antonio with the cenotaph and with the Alamo, what is the grave concern? What is the big story that you see there?
What I see is a rewriting of history, especially diminishing the role of the Alamo defenders. When you are willing to move their empty tomb outside the fort they bled and died inside, I have a real issue with that, especially the fact that they haven't one good reason to move it. They're using many excuses, but it can be repaired on site inside the fort, the heart of the fort.
Now, it's interesting because you so graciously invited me to speak down in March on the day that the Alamo fell, there at the spot where William Barrett Travis was shot and killed, and read his letter there. And that was a humbling tribute for me because, you know, being a graduate of the University of Tennessee, you know, we have an incredible connection to this great state of Texas. And of course, that the Alamo, and I'm a former member of Congress like Mr. Crockett, and I got a chance to meet his family. But the thing is that here you have the cenotaph, which is right there inside of where the Alamo walls were, and they are looking back upon that building that they defended there, the mission. why is it that, we have the Bureau, the General Land Office, and George P. Bush wanted to move it away from the site that it presently sits?
George P. Bush and the General Land Office want to move it because it will make them money. They're going to take it, basically throw it over the fortress walls, symbolically, and put it in front of the Menger Hotel. Why? Because they can have more room for bistro tables and people to swill whatever and eat their little croissants. That's why.
Now, that's interesting because this is obviously part of what I've read. Some, grand world historical site, or some, making it into more of an entertainment area. And that kind of takes away from the historical significance. And you've been very outspoken about this. And what have been some of the ramifications or consequences for you speaking out about this? And you should be able to speak out since you're a direct descendant of one of the men that was killed there at the Alamo.
Yes, we spoke out, actually the first to sound the clarion call several years ago about the situation. I had gatherings. I've made sure that people heard about this issue. For the past 25 years, our organization has held a ceremony inside the Alamo Chapel and then later on the grounds of the Alamo. Once we started speaking out about this issue, the CEO, Douglas McDonald, decided he would boot kick us out of the Alamo. Now he has some generic function. What is even more hurtful, he uses our exact program.
Now, this CEO, does he have a connection to the Alamo like you do and many others in the Alamo Defender Descendants Association?
No, sir, he's a hired gun. He was brought in out of Ohio, and he's basically the watchdog at the Alamo for George P. Bush.
So it's amazing to me that here, you are a seventh generation Texan, and someone is brought in from Ohio to be the CEO of the Alamo, and he is disregarding and he is disrespecting the very people that are of a bloodline. And we're talking about, I got to meet some great Hispanic members who also trace their history back to the Alamo. So why do you think it is that your voices are not being heard, being cast aside?
Before I answer that, I would like to address that we represent the entire garrison, the men, women, children, survivors, and we have a huge Tejano membership in our organization. I can tell you that this CEO, Douglas McDonald, walked in, decided he would make as much money as he could, sterilize the entire site, and turn it into a Disney-esque site. You go through the gift shop, you buy your trinkets, they will herd you out a certain door. You can't come into the Alamo from any direction like it is currently. They're going to close it off, fence it off, must go through the gift shop. Then you can get your time ticket if you want to go into the Alamo Chapel.
Now, the interesting thing is the San Antonio City Council also supporting this endeavor, that venture?
Yes, because George P. Bush walked in and decided that he would ask the city council to move the cenotaph.
Now, you talk about moving the cenotaph, and there are some people out there who say, hey, look, this is no big deal. We're only talking about, maybe 500 feet, 600 feet. But as you said, what is the real significance of that cenotaph, that empty tomb being moved for you as a direct descendant of the Alamo Defenders?
It's the one place we can go. It's the one place we have that's on the site that we can go annually as a group, as a family, and say, right here is our headstone. This is our cemetery. This is what has been so important to the families. That's all we had. We gave our all in 1836. We had nothing. I think it's the least the state of Texas can do, the General Land Office can do, is to leave our headstone where it sits and include the families in all processes, and that we would be welcome on the ground we bought with our blood.
Now, one of the interesting things, we're supposed to be under this shutdown, shelter in place, forced isolation here in Texas, but you have brought to the forefront some interesting activity that's been going on around the Alamo and the cenotaph, even during this shutdown period.
Well, we've continued mainly to work online with everything we're doing, but and as you probably know, that the Texas Historical Commission meetings will be on Zoom or be teleconference, and that's what we're really here today to ask, is for people to contact the Texas Historical Commission, because that does more right now in the strategies that we need to maintain and put forth, is to work with the Texas Historical Commission, convince them, show them Texans don't want this. They don't want to move the cenotaph. When it comes to exhuming the bodies, do DNA testing. That's what's coming up this Saturday. There'll be a decision on exhumation, but mid-May will be the decision on the cenotaph. And what we've asked people to do is contact the Texas Historical Commission. That's the first and foremost thing you need to do.
Now, but what I was alluding to is that, has there been some activity, some construction workers, or even any more digging during this shelter in place and lockdown period in and around the Alamo and the cenotaph?
Absolutely. It's appalling. Let's just start with the shutdown. Supposedly, the city of San Antonio is concerned about their citizens. However, their workers are working and digging 3 feet apart with no masks. What's with that? Why are they continuing doing non-essential construction? Right now, they're moving the bandstand. They've moved Lady Bird Fountain. They're jacking up all the pavers, getting ready to do phase 1. So that way, they think when the Texas Historical Commission gives them a green light, they're ready to roll. Now, the thing that's even more disturbing is everything is shut down, and they've continued the archaeological digs without the Alamo Defender descendants being there. We can prove that we have defenders also buried there. Everyone thinks that we were all burnt. Yes, the majority were burnt, but not all of them were burnt. We have 1840s reports from the U.S. Army where they went into the Alamo to turn it into a supply depot in 1846 and 49, and they found skeletons and partial skeletons. Well, lo and behold, December 2019, they found a coffin with only 2 femur bones in it, and they're large femur bones. So we're asking for DNA testing, because currently we don't have a seat at the table.
Where's the status of that request for the DNA testing?
Well, we filed a lawsuit concerning that some time back, along with some other issues. But currently, they've just been rolling along and ignoring it, because the Alamo Trust, George P. Bush, have set up a human remains protocol that's horrendous. They brought in 5 tribes from Oklahoma that they say have a connection culturally, not bloodline, and they've decided they don't want DNA testing. And they're the ones that are the monitors whenever a body is discovered. They're called, even though we've continued to say, what about the Alamo Defender descendants? So right now, because that particular tribe does not want DNA testing, they're saying we're not going to DNA test. And not only that, after we're through removing these bodies, we're going to dig a pit hole and make a common burial somewhere inside the church.
Now,
we're saying no.
Now, well, it's interesting to me. So we have a CEO of the Alamo that's coming in from Ohio. We are consulting with Indian tribes out of Oklahoma, but yet we have the people that are right here in the state of Texas that are descendants of those defenders who don't have a seat at the table, whose voices are not being heard. You know, how can the rest of Texas, this great state, and people that are Texans that are no longer living within Texas but still understand the importance of our history, how can they help you? How can they support you in this effort so that you can get back to having the seat at the table, and maybe even having a CEO that is a descendant of an Alamo defender?
That would be fabulous. What people can do, and whether you live in Texas or not, whether you're a Texan or not, anywhere in the world, if you will email the Texas Historical Commission and make a note on there that this email should be distributed to all Texas Historical Commission commissioners, send that email to Esther, ESTHER.Brickley, BRICKLEY @THC.Texas, spelled out, .gov.
Is there a way that they can send any other type of, letters or maybe phone calls as well to the Texas Historical Commission?
Absolutely. And they can also telephone George P. Bush and tell them they're very upset and that they are excluding the bloodline who could prove they're the bloodline of the Alamo, and they're being excluded. And tell George P. Bush that this CEO, Douglas McDonald, is doing a horrible job. He's alienated everyone he's ever come in contact with. And again, it's all about money with him. He's contacting the local businesses to try to support him, telling them that they will lose money if they don't get this project going.
You know, here we are today, April the 21st of 2020, 184 years after that incredible 18-minute, let's call it woodshed whipping of Santa Anna at San Jacinto. You're an avowed and very regarded historian. What are your concerns that you see when it comes to history, not just here in the state of Texas, but all across the United States of America, and how it's being changed, revised, or even ignored?
I'm very concerned across all cultures, all histories, because I'll tell you, if you don't know where you came from, you don't understand your roots, you're adrift. And I think too many young people today in split homes, maybe they know daddy, maybe they don't, but if they can hang on to somebody did something in my past, I've got something good inside of me. It gives them the will to bootstrap themselves, pull themselves up by the bootstraps and go forth. So yes, I think history is terribly important. People need to know bad times have come before. This isn't the first time we've had a pandemic. This isn't the first time we've had tyrants try to take over our government. And you know what? This again will repeat that a desperate few, like fought at San Jacinto, common citizen soldiers, desperate, tired, hungry, don't know where their family is, had friends die in Goliad and die in Alamo. And I guarantee you, what men like that can do in 18 minutes changes the world, and they did.
So as we get ready to wrap up this little segment, this interview, what are your solutions to this? I mean, we've talked about the issues, we talked about the problems. What would Lee Spencer White like to see happen so that we can preserve the Alamo, its history? We can once again regard our Descendants Association. What's some of your solutions to this?
Well, I think we can all agree that we need to keep the buildings up. We need to restore the buildings naturally. Museum would be great. Don't fence out the citizenry out of the plaza, because that's been historic. It's where they've always gone. Let them come and go inside the plaza at will. It's okay to make money. I understand that you need to keep the lights on, but you don't need to just put layer upon layer upon layer of bureaucrats and new jobs and jobs that you really don't need. And what you have to do, then you have to actually do all sorts of things to make money. And that's what they're doing. You know, every cheap and tawdry thing that they can do, that's what they're doing to raise funds. So if it were up to me, I would step back, keep it real, keep it natural, educate people, instill a sense of pride, and keep the Alamo, which is a symbol of liberty. It is the beacon of liberty for Texas and has spread across the world.
Well, I will tell you that the Alamo is special to me, you know, being born and raised in Georgia, which was the same place that old Jim Bowie was born in. And like I said, being a graduate of the University of Tennessee and a former member of Congress like that guy, Davy Crockett. So Lee Spencer White, how can people get in touch with you and make sure that they can be a part of your team to support your efforts?
I would love for anyone to contact me, and they can contact me through my email, Alamo, ALAMO .LEE @yahoo.com. They can also find me on Facebook, Lee Spencer White. They can also find our Alamo Defender Descendants Association on our website or on Facebook.
Well,
contact me. I need help. You know, I feel like I'm Travis saying, listen, we're down to our last man, enemy at the wall. Please come and help me.
And it should not be that way in the great state of Texas. And so that's why I'm so honored that you would take time out of your busy schedule to spend some moments here and help to rally not just the people here in Texas, but as Travis said, all Americans in the world. So thank you very much, Lee, and God bless you and God keep you. Lee Spencer White, who is part of the Alamo Defenders Descendants Association, standing up and fighting for the Alamo, for the cenotaph, for our history. God bless. Thanks, Lee.
God bless you, sir. Thank you.
Everyone, that was Lee Spencer White, who is one of the direct descendants of the Alamo, and she's also part of the Friends of the Texas Historical Commission. Up next, now we have Bethany Hatch, who is a candidate for Texas State Senate District 29, which is based in El Paso. State Senate District for Texas 29, Bethany Hatch joining us. Bethany Hatch is a third-generation El Pasoan, graduate of Texas Tech University. Can I still say guns up, or is it just wreck them? I don't know. A successful small business owner, and above all, a follower of Christ. Bethany graduated from Coronado High School in El Paso and received her Bachelor of Arts in Advertising from Texas Tech University in Lubbock, where she managed a small business post-graduation. After freelancing as a graphic designer, she knew the only place that would ever be home was El Paso. Bethany moved back over 5 years ago to start a small business in Northeast El Paso, where she now employs 18 people. Being a small business owner has given Bethany a deep understanding of what it takes to bring financial stability to her district, Senate District 29. She truly believes that Senate District 29 can be filled with opportunity, given the right circumstances to flourish. Bethany wants to empower the residents of State Senate District 29 to feel confident in pursuing the American dream. Bethany knows that with someone willing to fight for the people of that district, together they can bring exponential growth and opportunity to the area. By fighting for lower taxes and more recognition from the state government in Austin, State Senate District 29 can be revitalized and set free to achieve prosperity and success. The policies of the progressive socialist left only diminish people's potential. But by empowering the people, we can be set free from the high taxes, stifling regulations, and overbearing government influence on our daily lives. Bethany, thanks so much and welcome to our Chairman Chat.
Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, you know, when you talk about being a small business owner, as you say down here, you know, being set free of the overbearing government influence on our daily lives, you got to look at what's happening here with the economy in Texas. We know that just yesterday, the first time in history, oil markets went negative. What do you see as being the effects? You're a small business owner. What are the effects? And what is your perspective and thoughts about getting the Texas economy reopened?
Well, I think it's really important that we start reopening, and we can do so safely. I think that a lot of small businesses are really hurting right now. People are out of jobs, and there's a lot of businesses that might not ever open again. So this is not just a short-term problem. This is something that we're going to be seeing in long-term effects. And like you said, with the crude oil, it's dropped so low, and we really need to get people out to work so that they can start buying gas and just get the economy back open.
Now, what type of small business do you have out there, and how have you been affected by the shelter-in-place forced isolation mandates that have been handed down?
I own a pet care facility, so we do dog and cat training, daycare, and boarding. And all the shutdown happened right around spring break, which is typically one of our busiest times of the year. And so we went from being at capacity to minimal numbers, and it was a big hit on us, but we powered through it for a while, and then we ended up shutting down on April 1st. And I have since been paying my employees, but we did not receive the PPP funding. So we are opening back up on May 1st. And because I need to keep my doors open and keep the employees getting paid.
Now, what do you think about this whole thing with government making the decision about what is an essential or non-essential business?
Every single job is essential. If that paycheck is providing for somebody, providing for their family, keeping a roof over their head, putting food on the table, every single job is essential. And it's a little discouraging to see that this elected official feels as though they can tell somebody if they're essential or not.
Now, when you look at State Senate District 29, right now it's currently represented by Jose Rodriguez. I guess he'll be stepping down, and you'll be going up against Cesar Blanco. Tell us a little bit about State Senate District 29 out there, El Paso. It goes down along the upper Rio Grande Valley. You know, I did a motorcycle ride out through there, going through Marfa down to the Big Bend. It's a beautiful country.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. We have 5 counties: El Paso, Culberson, Hudspeth, Jeff Davis, and Presidio counties. And it's absolutely a beautiful district. So much natural, you have Big Bend and the beauty of the Rio Grande, and then you have an amazing border city here in El Paso, and it's a really unique district.
Now, what do you see as the major challenges for you being a candidate out there in that state Senate district, which is really, let's be honest, been dominated by the Democrats? How do you make that differentiation between you, your philosophy of governance, your ideological principles and values?
Well, I think that you're right. This district is so deeply rooted in the Democratic Party, and we constantly are voting in Democrat politicians. But so many people are ready for a change. I see it all the time. I talk to people, and they're ready for someone who's going to represent them. And I think that what I bring to the table is I've been part of the community. I have owned a small business, and I know what it takes to be able to bring economic growth to our district. And I think that that's something that people in this district are really craving. And I think that it's something that will set me apart from the policies on the left.
Now, another key aspect of that state Senate district, I mean, it is a border district, and so the issue of illegal immigration has to be so important. What have been some of the positives and definitely the negatives that you have seen for illegal immigration out there in that state Senate district?
Well, I think it's important that we recognize the people that have crossed over the border legally, that they've gone through the process, that they've really immersed themselves into the community and have done it the right way. And we do have a lot of problems with illegal immigration. And I think that something that we should talk about is how businesses are hiring people who are not legal, and that doesn't even protect the illegal worker. So they might not be getting paid minimum wage. They might not be they might not qualify for things like workman's comp, other things that protect legal citizens of the nation. They're not getting those things. And so by encouraging people to cross over and to take those jobs, it's not only hurts our residents by taking jobs away, but also it hurts the people who are in those jobs that are not getting treated as they probably should be.
And when you talk about economic growth, opportunity, and revitalization out there, what are the major industries that you have in the State Senate District 29? And what are the opportunities that you see where you could bring new industries and new opportunities out there?
Absolutely. So I think that District 29 has been ignored by the rest of Texas. We see a lot of other companies getting incentivized to go into the bigger cities that are already growing exponentially. And in West Texas, we really don't see any benefit from some of these programs. So I think that if we can have somebody in Austin that is fighting for our district, who fights for us to be recognized, then we can receive some of those incentives to bring some of those bigger companies here and to be able to use that to grow the community.
You know, one of the things, of course, I spent 22 years in the Army, and you have an incredibly important military installation out there called Fort Bliss, which is the home of the 1st Armored Division. How do you see that you interacting with that military installation, and also, you know, supporting our veterans and maybe getting more veterans to stay out there in the El Paso area that can help to grow the economy there and take part in these expanded opportunities?
One thing, I work with a lot of veterans. I work with a lot of active duty military. Our facility, we probably have about 90% military customers, if not more. And one of the biggest complaints I hear is the VA system. And one thing that we really have failed our veterans on is not reforming the VA. And they need to have that assistance that they're not getting. It's being run poorly. People are waiting for months and months to see a doctor, and we need to really work on fixing that system. And I think that if they have access to a good medical system here, a lot more people would retire, because it is a great city. It is a great district.
And, you know, when you talk about a great city and a great district, economic opportunities, one of the cornerstones to that, and especially for military families, is the education system. So what needs to be sustained or maybe even improved with the education system out there in State Senate District 29?
I've talked to a lot of teachers who are concerned about how the education system is being run. And one thing that I believe that we need to do is remove the federal government from our education system and bring it back to Texas, and then even more so put it back into the different districts, because the way that an education system might thrive in District 29 might not be the way that it would thrive somewhere like Houston or Austin. Our students are different here. We have different needs. And I think that if teachers were able to base their curriculum on each student individually instead of based around a test or based around federal standards, then we would see a lot more improvement in the system, and we would see kids graduating high school at a higher rate and possibly going on, if not to college, which isn't always necessarily the best choice for some people, but we have trade schools that people are really not, I feel like we're doing a disservice by not encouraging our students to seek different career paths.
Now, Governor Abbott has said that schools are going to remain closed for the remainder of this school year. Are you seeing do you have a strong homeschooling community out there in State Senate District 29? And do you see maybe that there's an opportunity for growth there?
Before this happened, there wasn't a huge percentage of people who homeschooled, and right now, of course, we're seeing all the parents staying home with their kids, homeschooling them, and I do think that it would be a great way to grow that community here. My sister was homeschooled, and I saw a lot of benefits from that, and I think that, again, not every student learns the same, so it's not a cookie cutter response for everyone, and so some people would thrive better in a homeschooling situation, and where parents can, I think it's important to encourage that be an option for them.
When I sit and have this conversation with you, you're exactly what the Republican Party, not just in Texas, but all across the United States of America needs, those young, energetic faces and voices. So how can people support you, and how can we make sure that we get more young constitutional conservatives out there running for these elected positions? Because I believe we have to start building a farm team system.
Absolutely. If anyone is interested in supporting me, we have the website hatchfortexas.com, and it's FOR, and you can follow me on my Facebook page. I think it's really exciting to be involved in this process and to really talk to different people, and that's a comment I get a lot, is that I am younger and people are excited to see somebody of my generation being involved in politics, and there's more of us than people think, and hopefully when other people in my generation see me running, hopefully it'll encourage them maybe in the next election cycle to put their name on the ballot.
Now, of course, you've got the typical consultants, the bean counters, the people that just look at demographics and statistics, and they will say to you, Bethany Hatch, this is a hill that's too difficult to climb. What do you say to those folks to get them to believe that you could possibly go out there and do something that has not been done for quite some time and flip a state Senate district from blue to red?
I say that there's no battle that is impossible. I have strong faith in God, and I believe that this is absolutely a winnable seat, and I see that people are ready for that change, and I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to do what I think previous candidates before might not have been ready to do, willing to do, but I'm ready to get out there and fight for the people, get out there and know what their needs are, talk to them, and to really bring their voice to this seat, which is something we have not seen.
And speaking of being a voice for those constituents there in State Senate District 29, about 816,000 Texans out there. You're the new state senator from out there in El Paso. What would be your first real legislative priority when you show up down in Austin for the legislative session in 2021?
Oh, wow, there's so many things. I think there's a lot of ideas that I have. I would love to see something like constitutional carry get passed. I would love to see us focus on the sanctity of life, but I think also what's important is getting out there and talking to the voters of this district. I was in Hudspeth County, and they're really concerned about their water, and so when I hear that, that's something that I think needs to be a priority. And so the more I talk to people, the more that I learn about what the needs are that are important to them, and I think it would be something similar to addressing the water shortage in Hudspeth.
Okay. Last minute, What do you think is the greatest challenge that you face, and how can the people watching this video help you to overcome that challenge?
I think one of the biggest challenges that I get a lot of comments on is people think that I'm young, and I'm not as young as I look. But I have a lot of experience. I've been a small business owner for 5.5 years. So just people getting to know me, following me on social media, reading on my website, keeping in touch, and just being able to be an advocate for me, to be an ambassador for the campaign. I think that would be the greatest help that anyone could provide.
Well, I want to throw in my little 2 cents. I think that there would be nothing better to upset Robert Francis O'Rourke than to have Bethany Hatch win the State Senate District 29 out there and become the person that represents him in the Texas State Senate. So, folks, if there's anything we really would like to see happen, let's see old Bob Frank O'Rourke not be really ecstatic on Election Day, and let's send Bethany Hatch down to Austin, Texas, as the next state senator from Senate District 29, which is out there in El Paso. So once again, your website and how can people follow you, Bethany?
Hatch4Texas.com, and it's the same across all of my social media. It's Hatch4Texas FOR.
Thank you so much, Bethany Hatch, and I want to wish you a happy San Jacinto Day. This is the day that in 18 minutes, those Texians and some volunteers from some other states whip Santa Ana in 18 minutes and ensure that we have this great state of Texas. So God bless you, God bless Texas, and thank you for being with us.
God bless. Thanks for having me.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant Colonel Allen West here. Thank you for joining us for another Tuesday evening session of Chairman Chats. And remember that on this day, 184 years ago, some simple men, ordinary men, did an extraordinary thing in 18 minutes that secured the independence of the Lone Star State of Texas, which was first its own country, the Republic of Texas. God bless you. God bless Texas. And have a great evening.